It happens more often than we can imagine. In my case, I was sitting at home and out of nowhere, I just started feeling uncomfortable. Then it got worse and I started perspiring. I tried to ignore it, but I waited too long. The chest pain came as we were driving to the hospital emergency. I felt my life clock begin to tick. I barely survived. There was lots of damage done to my heart. What do I do now? I was lucky. I took a leap of faith and tried a 7-herb formula with hawthorn, garlic, cayenne, and more called Extendivite. Herbs have been used for thousands of years to keep us healthy. If you're not using Extendivite as a preventative supplement, maybe it's time to start. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. The history the government hopes you never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Here it is, Monday, July 8th, 2019, start of a brand new week here. And yes, it was kind of nice having a few days off last week. And, my thanks to John Stadmiller for understanding, you can reach burnout, which is kind of where I was hovering. And so I took a little time off last week, which allowed me to sort of get a little bit more done toward the upcoming move toward Indiana, do some much overdue maintenance on the website, and just sort of get caught up on a lot of things that have been kind of lagging behind here. And but we're back in the saddle again today. We're ready to start a brand new week and get back into the show. So let's get right on into it. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. That's 800-313-9443. And Sam is in our control room, ready to answer the phone, put you on the air with your comments, questions, and observations. So a lot of stuff happened while I was away from the microphone, part of which, of course, was the 4th of July. And this, of course, is going to be the last 4th of July we have here in our current residence, which means the fireworks show that took place over Pearl Harbor is the last one that we're going to see. And to be very honest, it was a little disappointing. In fact, it was kind of almost unenthusiastic. It was just mostly the little palms, the little colored spheres. Most of them were red and green. In fact, it looked more like a Christmas display than 4th of July. And I got the distinct impression that they said, give us the cheapest 15 minutes that you've got out there. And even illegal fireworks, there wasn't that much out there. And it's probably the economy's part of it. The other part of it is I don't think people are really that enthusiastic about the United States anymore. Of course, local law enforcement is saying, well, no, it's because we have succeeded in blocking those fireworks smugglers, which I'm not believing 1 second. I mean, you see some guy down at the border saying, well, another 400,000 illegal immigrants walked across the border, but we got the box of sparklers. Look, we got the sparklers. We're doing a good job here. And the other thing, of course, that happened while I was away was these monster quakes that hit in California and earlier today in Indonesia, and they're just really rocking and rolling. This was the biggest quake they had since the Northridge quake, which Claire and I went through. And I've traded emails with a lot of friends I have in California. They felt it. Things got shaken around a lot. Stuff got broken here. And normally when you have a quake, they'll say, well, there's going to be a tapering off of aftershocks and nothing to worry about. But this one surprised everybody because you had that 6.4 quake, and everybody said, okay, well, there may be another 5.0 or something aftershock. Then they got hit by the 7.1, and they have had something like 3,000 small quakes in that area. And over at Caltech, seismologist Lucy Jones is out there saying right now there is an 11% chance that Southern California will get hit by another magnitude 7 or greater quake this week. That's got to be making people feel very, very nervous about what's going on over there. And there were some smaller quakes up in the Cascadia Fault. The quakes were so bad that the Naval Air Weapons Station at China Lake was evacuated and deemed incapable of conducting missions. And they're basically in there trying to examine the infrastructure and see what it's going to take to get it back to battery, as it were. Up in Yellowstone, they're a little nervous there because they could actually feel the quake all the way up there. It was detectable. And people get very nervous about that huge supervolcano magma chamber getting dinged deep underground by seismic waves. And so a lot of people are pointing out how the Steamboat Geyser in Yellowstone is approaching a record number of eruptions. And the USGS is starting to move away from there. Don't worry about it. It's perfectly safe. Come on over here, spend your tourist dollars. And now they're saying that, yeah, they're keeping an eye on there may be an event. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, they had another 7.1 quake over in Indonesia early today that triggered a tsunami warning, not for here in Hawaii, but for definitely around Indonesia. All right, we got a caller waiting on the line. Jim in Illinois, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Hello, Jim.
Yeah, are you there? I was stating that you sound much better, and hopefully you got a lot of rest.
Well, I got some rest, but like I said, I used the time to try. Well, we have got so much to do for the move, and there was a lot of stuff that had been sort of lingering for the server, and I got that stuff taken care of. So it was good all around.
Okay, this is my concern, and probably yours also. Donald Trump is probably the only sitting president who has a friend who is a convicted sex offender, and a friend, George Nader, who is a convicted child pornographer. That does not look good for America to have a sitting president associating with those kind of people.
Well, you know, that whole situation, and we're going to be going into Jeff Epstein as soon as I cover the flooding in Washington, D.C. The Democrats are, of course, trying to keep the focus off of Bill Clinton, who went down to Epstein's little Caribbean pedo palace 26 times. And they're basically exploiting a quote from Donald Trump from years ago about how Trump knew Epstein when he was a business developer in New York, and he was a great guy, blah, blah, blah. And the fact of the matter is that if you're honest about it, probably a lot of people know child abusers and pornographers, but don't realize that they are. It's like every time there's another one of these scandals that hit the church where the pastor's been diddling the little kiddies and everybody's saying, we had no idea. And so the question is, did Trump know what Epstein was up to? And the answer, as it turns out, is yes, because apparently Epstein molested an underage girl at Mar-a-Lago some years ago, at which point Trump had him banned from the premises.
Wow. You know, timing is everything. Why all of a sudden these two guys get arrested and indicted within the past 2 or 3 weeks?
Well, that's an interesting question here. And one thing that occurs to me is that this is going to absolutely guarantee that Hillary Clinton cannot run next year.
Right. Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good thing.
Yeah, but the Democrats, they don't look too good themselves right now because, they're fighting among themselves.
Yes.
Well, Michael, I'm going to let you go. I'm pretty sure you have other people waiting to talk to you. So you take care.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. So we're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Major rains all across the Northeast here. Washington, D.C. literally got flooded out. The swamp has been flooded. And drivers were stranded. Apparently, they got 6.3 inches in Frederick, Maryland, 4.5 inches near Arlington. It's almost like Mother Nature does not approve of what's going on over there in our nation's capital. Now, last week, we had a bit of a scare here. There was Hurricane Barbara that was just off to the east of us, and it was a Category 5 hurricane aimed right at the Hawaiian Islands, and everybody's already headed to the hardware stores to getting the plywood, to getting the emergency supplies and everything. 24 hours later, it had literally spun out to a tropical storm, and it vanished the next day. So very, very hard to predict these things, but we dodged a bullet on that one. In our case, it wasn't a big deal because we've already cleaned off the outside porches in our first moving sale, and we're going to have our second moving sale later this month here. So we're just trying to get rid of everything. I don't know, maybe I should put some of this stuff up on eBay and see if anybody wants to buy any of this junk. Anyway, all right, so let's get into Jeff Epstein because he's back in the news. Over the weekend, he was arrested, and the indictment was unsealed earlier today. And it goes beyond his mere molestation of underage girls. He was trafficking them. So he is being indicted for trafficking and conspiracy to traffic underage girls. That is a very, very serious situation. Now, for those of you who are not up on the Jeffrey Epstein sex scandal, here's the really juicy part that everybody was wondering about, okay? There was originally another indictment against Epstein, 53-page federal indictment that would have sent Epstein to prison for the rest of his life. But at the last second, a deal was struck. This amazing plea agreement that would conceal Epstein's crimes and the number of people involved. And Epstein served just 13 months in the county jail. And the deal, called a non-prosecution agreement, essentially shut down an ongoing FBI probe into whether there were more victims and other powerful people who took part in Epstein's sex crimes. Now, all of this is coming out of Mike Chernovich in the Miami Herald, and what appears to have been the trigger, the spark for the current indictment, was Chernovich's court victory, which resulted in the unsealing of all of the files from the earlier case. And everybody's looking at that and saying, how could they have let this guy walk? What the heck is going on? So now the prosecutors are back out there and saying, well, we're going to clean this mess up here. And so he's now looking at an indictment for sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. If he is convicted, he is looking at 45 years in prison, which, given that he is my age, 66, that's a life sentence. Now, the Miami Herald is also reporting that apparently new victims and new witnesses have come forward to help the FBI and the New York Police Department. And apparently this is part of the larger program of trying to bust these elite pedophile rings. And they raided Epstein's New York townhouse. They apparently found nude photos of underage girls while they were ransacking the place here. And so they've thrown Epstein in jail. He's being denied bond because he's a flight risk. He's in the same prison as El Chapo. I don't know if that means anything, but that's where he is. And here's where it gets interesting. This is being reported by OANN, Jack Posobiec. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Epstein is offering to make a deal. He is willing to cooperate with the investigation, including giving up the names of those who engaged in sex with underage girls in exchange for a maximum sentence not to exceed 5 years. And I think Epstein is about to get very, very, very depressed. Now, good thing he's in jail because he can't go for a walk in Fort Marcy Park, nor can he get into a small light aircraft here. And I'm not the only person who's out there saying Epstein may never get to trial because there's a lot of very important people who stand to just get burned about what's going on. Now, do you remember back when the Enron scandal was ticking up and you had Ken Lay who at the last second, just before he was going to go to trial and name his co-conspirators in the case, including George W. Bush, he suffered a mysterious heart disease and was never seen again. Personally, I think he's down in the Canary Islands playing canasta. So, interestingly enough, Nancy Pelosi's daughter came out with this very cryptic tweet saying that it's likely some of our fave politicians will be implicated in the Epstein sex trafficking crimes. We're not just talking about sex with underage girls, we're talking about trafficking them. And Christine Pelosi came on out and said this Epstein case is horrific and the young women deserve justice. Good for her. Sounds like she's got a lot more ethics and morality than her mother. And she says, let's follow the facts and let the chips fall where they may, whether on Republicans or Democrats. Now, as I mentioned before on the phone call, Democrats have pounced on one kind quote Trump gave about Epstein before his nefarious activities were known, before he was arrested down in Florida. And Trump said, I've known Jeff for 15 years, terrific guy. And this was back when Trump was just a real estate developer in New York City and not president. And as I explained to that guy on the phone, you can know people and you don't know what they're doing in their private life. And it can take you by surprise here. And as I mentioned, if you want an indicator of Trump's feelings about all of this, is apparently Epstein sexually assaulted an underage girl down at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida. And at that point, Trump barred Epstein, said, you're not allowed in the building anymore here. Interestingly enough, an attorney for Epstein's victims is praising Trump's very helpful information in the case, which may in fact relate to that assault at Mar-a-Lago. But right now, the Democrats and all of Clinton's minions are out there trying to take the focus off of Bill Clinton, who is known to have flown down to that pedo palace down there in the Caribbean on Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express. That's the name of the plane. And 26 times. And they don't want anybody thinking about that. They're trying to say, oh, it's Donald Trump. It's got to be Donald Trump. Donald Trump's just this evil, evil pervert. So, and even Robert Mueller is tangled up in this. So Clinton flew on Epstein's private jet. And when Epstein got that sweetheart deal of just a 13-month county jail stint for all the child sexual abuse, and for all we know, because the records were sealed and they're just now coming to light, he may have been trafficking these kids back then. In fact, I think there were indications that he was. And so Little St. James Island is what it's called. You can find it on Google Earth. And there have just been a lot of major people down there. Bill Clinton, of course, Kevin Spacey, and Prince Andrew, which has been a huge embarrassment to the royal family. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Over at the Bill Clinton Presidential Library, they are refusing to hand over any information on Bill Clinton's association to Jeffrey Epstein. Now that's odd, because I thought the presidential libraries were there to preserve records and make them available to researchers, but apparently not. They're under orders. No, we're not going to give that stuff out here. It may not make any difference either, because there's this former Secret Service agent, Dan Bongino, and we've talked about him before, and he is threatening to reveal new details about Bill Clinton's 26 documented trips aboard the Lolita Express and how many times he left his Secret Service protective detail behind. Apparently didn't want any witnesses. So apparently Bongino and former Hillary Clinton aide Nick Merrill were feuding on Twitter. Merrill challenged Bongino's claim that Clinton was the most manipulative political person in a position of power he'd ever met. Merrill fired back that Hillary had enormous respect for the Secret Service and a great relationship with the agents on her detail. Well, we know that that is not true here. But Merrill came on out and claimed that Bongino was never on the Clintons' detail. Bongino immediately supplied a photo of him sitting behind Hillary Clinton back in 2001. So already the fight is going on in the back rooms. How do they protect Bill Clinton? Because if Bill Clinton gets tarnished with this, at the start of the 2020 campaign season, any possibility that Hillary Clinton could actually run next year is going to evaporate. We have to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge 20, 30, 40, 50, if possible, 100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And one of our very alert listeners wrote in response to that first phone call we had today saying that, in point of fact, other presidents have been knowing associates with pedophiles and reminded us about the Franklin scandal, which tainted the administration of George W. Bush. And you can do a web search on the Franklin scandal unless social media has scrubbed that from the record as well. But it was a nasty, nasty little bit of business there. Okay, let's take a phone call from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike, we all know Alan Dershowitz is involved in this, right? I mean, there's a lot. It's who we don't know is involved. You know, I mean, you got politicians that's from Democratic and Republican parties. You could have Supreme Court judges, people in the media, people in movies, movie stars. Everybody who's probably been to Epstein's Island, he has a lot of, I'll tell you one thing, he better have multiple black books, and have a dead man's hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Mike, I was watching the Duran, and which is a good theory, and I can believe it, is, a lot of these people went to the island, they get given some, alcohol, some of these politicians, and then they have, they sleep with a girl only to find out they're underage, and then they have given photos in a manila envelope.
Yeah.
How is Jeffrey Epstein, like, how did he earn his money? Like, you know what I mean? Like, where did he get all this money?
Well, supposedly the same way that Trump did. He began as a real estate developer, and he had a lot of connections. And yes, some of those incriminating videos and stuff that he was taking would probably help push through some very good sweetheart deals.
And Mike, he could be used like by a state actor, and I'm not talking about Russia or Saudi Arabia, and you know who we're talking about.
We're going to be getting into that in a little bit.
Yeah, and but Mike, I wanted to switch gears if I can. I know you're going to talk about this later. They said the canary in the coal mine with the economy is Deutsche Bank.
Yes.
And they're laying off 18,000
the canary is dead, or it's on the bottom of the cage and its legs are twitching.
Well, Jim Willie said a while ago, watch Deutsche Bank, watch Deutsche Bank. Deutsche Bank, isn't it true if they go, like the world goes, the economy, right?
Well, they're downsizing right now. They haven't gone yet. The big question is, at what point is their downsizing going to start tripping off some of the derivatives?
And the last subject I'm going to switch over to real quick is also that British ambassador that those leaked cables came from. Everything is falling apart. Like, like how everything's decadent and just everything's is messed up.
Fall of Rome.
Messed up.
Fall of Rome.
And but what, Mike? All of this stuff going on. There's still no border security.
Nope.
There's no infrastructure.
Well, no, there is border security. They were able to keep the fireworks out of Hawaii.
But it's July already, and the borders are still open. There's no infrastructure talk at all. Nothing.
Yep.
The wars keep going on. That rat line is reversed back into Libya now with the weapons going back into there. So I just don't see anything positive happening, Mike. That's all I got to say. Have a good show.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot here. We're going to let you go, and we're going to switch over to Tony in Puerto Rico. But, Tony, I may have to take you through the commercial break. What's on your mind?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I'm glad you're well and you're back. The world needs you.
Thank you.
Very happy you're back online. I'm very happy. Yeah, I have a question about the Barbary Wars. Where did the word Barbary come from? Is that short for barbarian or something?
I have to be very honest. I don't really know, but that sounds like a really good explanation.
Okay, but they're also called the Corsairs. Am I correct?
Yeah, but the Corsairs were basically a group of pirates, and they had a very unique kind of rigging on their ship. that was ideally suited for coastal sailing as opposed to crossing blue water. And so they sort of got tangled up here, and eventually there was a type of sailing vessel called the Corsair.
Okay, I understand you're not too sure about the Barbary word, but do you think that may have to do with their language or something?
Again, this is outside my area of expertise.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike, and welcome back.
All right, thanks an awful lot. Good to be back, and we're going to take another break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN @hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. It really does work like the review says it does. I cannot believe that after the first few days, I didn't feel as sluggish or clogged up. It has had a profound impact on my physical, emotional well-being. I'm skeptical as most people about products and their claims, and I never write reviews, but this is a wonderful product and I recommend it to everyone. Great product. It has brought my blood pressure from the mid-150s over the 80s to the mid-130s over mid-80s, along with diet and exercise in just the past couple of months. Excellent. Thank you, David. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And we're talking about the Jeffrey Epstein case here. And this thing, it's starting to look like that old expression, where were you when the refuse hit the air conditioning system? I'm cleaning up the language a little bit so that the FCC doesn't get on our case here. But now, in light of the revelations that have come out of the Miami Herald, there are new demands for Labor Secretary Alex Acosta to resign, because Acosta was Miami's top federal prosecutor when Epstein got that sweetheart plea deal. And apparently Acosta was instrumental in making sure that that was going to happen. So you've got all these people who are tangled up in this case, Acosta, Mueller, and you have to wonder what the heck is going on here. In fact, there was this article that came out of CuzBlue talking about this thread from back in 2018 about a possible connection between Epstein and Mueller's FBI. And it includes a document, there's some redactions on it, but it seems to imply that Jeffrey Epstein was an informant for Mueller's FBI. And the document basically says Epstein has also provided information to the FBI as agreed upon. And is that one of the reasons why he escaped charges for molesting over 20 girls? Is he a spook? Is he several people's spooks? Because here's where it gets a little bit weird. When Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking underage girls, he used aircraft of the same tail number and during the same time period as Dime Corps when they were trafficking minors in Bosnia and other parts of the Balkan states. So Epstein was sharing an airplane with Dime Corps, the State Department, and the Central Intelligence Agency. So maybe that was Epstein's little gig here, to provide these underage honey traps with which to compromise people. I would be very surprised if Epstein survives much longer. There are so many people right now who are threatened by what he knows. And yes, he's in prison, but people do get killed in prison. Irv Rubin, I believe was his call, was the former head of the JDL. And he got arrested for wanting to kill a U.S. congressman and blow up a mosque. And he was going to name names. And he was in prison, and they still managed to get at him. So if I were Epstein, I'd be asking for protective custody right about now. Of course, he might not get it. Remember Barry Seal's case? The judge ordered him to stay at a specific motel, forbade him to have any guns, forbade him to have any bodyguards, and of course that's where the cartel hitmen caught up with him and filled him full of holes. Anyway, feeling his oats, Mike Cernovich is now launching a new fundraiser to unseal all the documents related to congressional sexual harassment. That's a big scandal a lot of people have been talking about, where apparently members of Congress feel that it's okay to start messing around with the interns. And apparently there is a fund that is kept there, filled with taxpayer dollars, to buy the silence of people who don't want to go along with this. Now, some do. Some understand. If you go along with these sexual dalliances, it's a career booster. But some don't. So Cernovich wants to go there now. I mean, he's led the charge against Epstein. He's got that victory under his belt. Now he's moving forward on the next one. Okay, getting on back to Hillary Clinton, not being reported in the corporate media all that much, is that the investigation into her private email server is continuing. And Heather Samuelson, who's Hillary Clinton's personal attorney, gave the FBI and Judicial Watch conflicting explanations of when she learned that the former Secretary of State used a private email system to conduct official U.S. diplomatic business. And so apparently the story is changing there. Now, Tom Fitton is out there saying that new testimony is showing that the Obama State Department hid the Clinton emails, and then allowed her to delete 33,000 of them, which of course was against the law. And apparently the Obama State Department put national security at risk by deliberately underclassifying the Clinton Benghazi emails. So Representative Peter King is out there saying that there are severe, serious abuses by the FBI and the CIA. It's going to come on out, talking about the attack against Trump during the 2016 U.S. election. And I certainly hope that's true. And I'm sure the FBI and the CIA are trying to figure out, some way they can shut this all down. They're probably going through Epstein's files right now saying, who have we got? Who have we got? Who have we got negatives on? Claire actually wrote a song called I've Got the Negatives. We never made a video to it, though. So Representative Peter King is saying he's confident the American people will learn of serious, severe abuses carried out against Trump during the 2016 campaign. And I think the American people need to know that. Now, Democrats, of course, continue to say, there was nothing there. It was just, there was nothing going on. But of course, the smoking gun that they can't get away from is that dossier that was, at this point, fabricated by a former British spy on behalf of the Clinton campaign. And the FBI relied on it to get the FISA warrants to spy on the Trump campaign. That's a little hard to get away from here. So it does need to come on out. The American people do need to know. They have a right to know. And I guess the Democrats and the liberals are terrified that it is going to come on out, and that's why you've got YouTube and Google and Facebook are installing all of this filtering software to make sure that you Americans don't trouble your little tiny heads over the fact that the federal government has gone totally crooked and corrupt. Because you really don't need to know that. That's just going to get in the way of you going to work and, doing your job and paying your taxes and breeding more workers and more soldiers and supporting the wars. Which is, of course, why you come to Republic Broadcasting and whatreallyhappened.com to find out what's really going on. All right, something else that happened while I was away from the microphone, of course, were the debates. The first debate was here to talk about and how well Tulsi Gabbard did. Then there was the second debate, which were all the top polling Democratic candidates. And apparently Joe Biden did not come out of that second debate very well. Of course, everybody was piling on to him. I mean, his Democratic rivals, they were just picking at him. There was no two ways around it. But his poll numbers have taken a major, major beating. President Trump basically came on out and said that Biden is saying, he's saying Biden is not salvageable. He's at this point, he's a reclamation project. Now, other interesting poll numbers have come on out that are looking bad for the Democrats. Apparently, millennials are turning away from the socialist agenda. They're looking at it. They're seeing that it really can't work, that it's a lot of promises about free stuff, but they keep going back to that issue. Who pays for it all? And they come to realize that, there's nothing more expensive than free government stuff. So they're swinging back to the conservative point of view. Robert Mueller is coming up, of course, for his grilling before the House Judiciary Intelligence Committees on July 17th. And there's a lot of questions they should be asking him, especially about that Christopher Steele dossier. Now, Justin Amash is still out there screaming that Nancy Pelosi is making a mistake by not initiating impeachment proceedings against Trump. And for what? You can't just impeach the guy because you don't like him. There has to be a high crime or misdemeanor. And of course, the Democrats are out there saying he obstructed justice in the Mueller investigation. How do you obstruct justice when no crime was committed? Dustin was right. It just feels like it's all coming apart here. Anyway, a lot of people have been talking about how Fox News appears to be abandoning its original roots and its original base. And even Trump got on their case saying they forgot the people who got them there, which I'm sorry, Donald, that's the pot calling the kettle black, because you have basically forgotten a lot of people who worked very hard to put you where you are right now. And that includes the independent media. So we'll see what's happening. Right now, everybody is awaiting the arrival of the women's soccer team. And a little bit of controversy about that. We'll talk about that later in the show. But turning to the international news, things are heating up around Iran. And Trump is out there saying that Iran better be careful after backing away further from the nuclear deal. In other words, President Trump is saying, how dare you walk away from the nuclear deal that I already walked away from? You can't do that. I can do that. I'm the President of the United States. I can walk away from the deal. You can't. So Trump came on out and said Iran is doing a lot of bad things. Again, pot calling the kettle black. And so after ignoring the International Atomic Energy Agency reports that Iran has maintained compliance with the P5+1 deal up until recently, all of a sudden the United States is demanding that the IAEA board meet on Wednesday to discuss Iran's refusal to abide by the nuclear deal. And the U.S. is accusing Iran of being in violation because their uranium stockpile exceeded 300 kilograms. Iran is saying it's not a violation. The stockpile cap was voluntary since the U.S. walked out of the deal. And Iran has got a point. But I've noticed in all the corporate media reporting on this whole issue, okay, nobody is talking about the fact that, yeah, the United States walked away from the deal. Trump pulled out of the deal. It's being spun as if there's still supposed to be a deal that Iran is obligated to comply with, and they're refusing to go along. Now, Germany and Great Britain are calling on Iran to immediately stop and reverse all activities on uranium enrichment. But here is the problem. What else is Iran going to do? Iran entered into that deal. They complied with it. The deal was a curtailing of their nuclear activities in exchange for a reduction in sanctions. And the United States never kept their word. They kept the sanctions. Indeed, they added even more to them. And after Trump pulled out of the deal, even more sanctions after that. So what is Iran supposed to be doing? And by the way, as long as they're not building nuclear weapons, and nobody has found any evidence that that is their intention, they're allowed to enrich uranium for fuel rods or medical isotopes or industrial applications under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's the United States that is in violation of the international agreements. By the way, real quick before we take this next phone call, I did take a look at it, and the reason it's called the Barbary Coast is because of the Berbers, which were the people who lived all along that north coast of Africa. So that's where that came from. Okay, we're going to take a phone call from Joe in Tennessee. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Joe, are you there? Joe in Tennessee, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Okay.
I was wondering if I You hear me now?
I hear you now. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering if I should be thought of as anti-American because I don't support the U.S. soccer team. I mean, those women were really a disgrace to me. First of all, I have a affinity, and I've lived in Thailand. And when they beat the Thais 13-0, and they ran around, jumping around like they just won the World Cup, that was really an embarrassment. And it really embarrassed the Thais, and that kind of upset me. Second of all, they're a bunch that foul-mouthed lesbian who, even before they win the cup, is talking about how she's going to say, F Trump, and I'm not going to the White House. And now, they win, and all the talk is about, like, equal pay for women's sports and all that. Well, let's face it. Women's sports, let them compete. If they're so good and they want the pay men get, let's just have sports, okay? No male, no female, and we can watch the best. And they pay the best. And it's unfortunate, but most likely the best are going to be men. I think that a men's soccer team, maybe a high school, or I'm sure any college, could just kick the crap out of the U.S. national team, and probably it would be worse than what the national team did to Thailand. So, let's face it. All this, like, complaining and whining by these women, it's really sickening to me. I mean, here they are. They're going to make all kinds of money anyway, but they want equal pay with the men. Well, they're not as good as the men. They're mediocrities compared to the men. Not one of them could make the male team. So, what do they want? Can you make them happy in any way? I just, they should be grateful that people even want to watch their slow sport. I mean, they run around like they're the greatest, and I could probably beat them. I could probably run faster than they do. So it's just, to me, it was just the whole world, I think, got to see what a bunch of spoiled brats American women have become.
It didn't create the best possible public image for the United States. Absolutely. Anyway, Joe, I hate to do this, but we got to take a break for commercials. Thank you very much for the phone call. We'll be right back after these few words.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page, and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Many people tell us about their experience with Extendivite. Just listen to what Glenn has to say.
Prior to taking it, I had diabetic neuropathy. The Extendivite reduced that significantly. Acid reflux was reduced. I had athlete's foot, very severe. Trimmed that down to about 75%. Dandruff, almost completely gone. I had occipital neuralgia at the base of my skull. I was having migraines reduced by about 90%. Heart palpitations, my heart would kind of stall out. I would skip a beat, very uncomfortable. And when walking from downstairs going to sleep, by the time I got to the bedroom, which is just one flight of stairs, my heart was pounding, coming out of my chest. My vision was blurry. This completely solved that problem. Great product. Thanks.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones here to Ryan Dawson. Aloha, Ryan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Aloha, Mike. I want to thank you for trusting me to try to hold the fort at least one of the days when you were sick.
Well, thank you for taking the microphone.
You're always you're a legend, dude. And I just wanted to say, before you got into soccer, when you're talking about the Iran deal, you're absolutely right. I do want to remind people that during the Obama administration, we really never had an Iran deal, because even though the deal was made, the U.S. kept kicking the can down the road, saying, well, in 6 months later, and they would not unfreeze their assets or purchase oil from Iran, because they kept telling them to prove they weren't enriching uranium. They weren't, but no amount of proof ever seemed to matter. So Trump has formally pulled out, but it didn't really change much, and Europe's already circumventing the sanctions. They have this special purpose vehicle they made for this thing called Intex, which allows them to buy oil without dollars on the JCPOA. So really, America is just, Trump is just following suit as his predecessors, but Asia and the Europeans are still going to buy oil from Iran.
Yeah, the more the United States, tries to weaponize sanctions and tariffs, the more the rest of the world is pulling away. And we're already starting to see the global economy sort of reconfigure itself into a new reality where the United States is not going to be in the center anymore.
I'm glad you threw tariffs in there too, because tariffs are a sanction in a way.
Yes.
You're making it so expensive that you can't purchase it. And these sanctions on China have been just detrimental to workers on both sides of the pond.
Yes.
And, the only people it's really benefited, I suppose, are in Indochina, who are making the dollar store goods or whatever. But, Lincoln proved the tariffs are a bad idea. Have free trade and trade business to business. But in a way, they're forcing the world to find ways around this U.S. monopoly and bully tactics. So in the long run, it might be a good thing, although that isn't the intention.
Well, I think, when Trump was talking about rebuilding America's manufacturing, I assumed, and we know what assume means, that what he was talking about was investment into new technologies with which to build new products and new industries, where we would have products unavailable in the rest of the world, and they would come to buy products from us. And that's the peaceful way to do it. And the reason I thought that was the direction he was thinking was because of his commitment to revive NASA. And if you're my age, and if you are, I feel sorry for you, you'll remember that much of the tech boom of the 70s, 80s, and 90s came out of that Apollo race to the moon. And all the new materials that were developed, integrated circuits, computers, it was just amazing what was just pouring on out. The technological fallout from the moon race really lit up our economy. And I was kind of hoping that's what Trump was thinking. But apparently his idea is to just arm twist the rest of the country to start buying stuff from America, except that we don't really have the factories built just yet to fill that manufacturing gap.
Well, it's a good goal, but the wrong method. But I'll let you go. I hear the music coming up. Thanks so much, Mike.
All right, thanks enough a lot, and we're going to let you go. And yes, Ryan is absolutely correct. We're coming up here on station identification. And we'll be back with hour number 2 after these few words.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. We're going to go back to the phones here to Art off the grid. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. You know how they do these beta tests, right? Like they'll do something in a state just to see how well people will accept it and what they can get away with before they try to implement it nationwide. And even in some circumstances, they'll try it in some small country or even sometimes in a larger country to see how the people will react before they try to take it, global, like international. Well, I'm wondering, and I'm sure you've probably heard of this. That's why I'm going to ask you your opinion on this. 2 different things. The first one is this LGBTQ plus all-body swim in Langley, British Columbia, where it's children from the age of 12 up to 21, and they're encouraged to all go topless, providing transgender changing rooms, which I don't know why they have a transgender changing room if they're encouraged to go topless. But the problem with this is the parents and the guardians are not allowed to come in. So it's like, who the hell is going to be watching the children and making sure the children are safe? This sounds like some really sick
Who's going to bring their children there in the first place under such circumstances? And by the way, apparently Canada is looking at a law where if parents deny their child's gender identity, the child can be removed from the home now.
Yeah, that was going to be the other thing I was going to get to, and this is happening in Ontario, and this is the Supporting Children, Youth, and Family Act of 2017, or Bill 89, and it was approved at a vote of 63 to 23. Now, this is scary. This is really scary, and if the people of Canada allow this to go on, it's only about, just look at what's happening here in the United States already with people who deny transgender. It's coming here.
Yes.
This is what we have to look forward to. This country has gone completely to, and I can't even say it. I can't say it on air.
No, you can't.
But this is what's coming. This is how scary it is. Your children, you can't accompany your children to these perverted swim-ins. Laws that they can take your children away if you deny, no, you are a boy, by God. I mean, it's just, Mike, I don't know, how much more bizarre world we can take before the people of this world step up and say, you know what, screw you, we're done with this, and just take back the power. And I mean, we should be marching on our nation's capitals. And I don't care if you're England, Canada, Spain, France. We should all, worldwide, we should be storming the halls. I was in town raising all kinds of sand about this, talking to people, trying to get people to wake up. And, you know, they actually called the cops on me. Trying to warn. And I got called, the cops called on me because I was trying to warn people that this is coming down the road. This is insane, Mike. If you'd have told me 10 years ago that this would be happening, that I would be threatened with police harassment simply by trying to wake people up, I would have told you you were crazy. I would have told you there's no way that this could ever happen in the United States. But here we are. It's here. It's coming. How do we stop this? Anyway, thanks, Mike. Sorry for the rant, but this has been driving me nuts, man. Appreciate it. Have a great one. Talk at you another time.
All right, thanks an awful lot here. And, you know, you hear about these events, like Drag Queen Reading Hour at the libraries and everything, and you have to wonder what is going through the parents' minds when they take the kids over to these events. And now this swimming meet where everybody's going to go topless. And by the way, I don't have an issue with you know, skinny dipping or you know, nude beaches or anything like that. I do have an issue with the fact that the parents and guardians are not allowed in to keep an eye on their own kids. That strikes me as extraordinarily bad. But what parent would take their child to such an event under those circumstances? I mean, is this being declared as mandatory? Is the government of Canada saying you will do this? You will take your child over here to this indoctrination center and you will drop them off and make sure that they have a clean towel. But it is crazy, and I think a lot of this has to do with trying to distract the general population from just how bad things are in terms of the war, in terms of the economy. And again, looking back at history, when you're looking at civilizations on the verge of collapse, you see the degree of bizarreness start to really take off. And to be very honest, it's another indicator to me that we are looking at the imminent collapse of the American empire. So getting on back to Iran, China has come on out and slammed the United States, saying that it is the unilateral bullying of Iran that is causing the crisis in the area. And Geng Shuang, who's spokesman for China's foreign ministry, said the maximum pressure exerted by the U.S. and Iran is the root cause of the Iranian nuclear crisis. And he's absolutely right about that. And he likened Washington's reintroduced sanctions to bullying and said they've become a worsening tumor for the global community. Well, that's a good description there as well. And he said this should all be resolved diplomatically. And the tragedy is it had been resolved diplomatically. And then Donald Trump said, nope, don't want to do it. I'm going to pull out of the deal. And Iran, don't you dare pull out of the deal. We can pull out of the deal. We're the United States. You can't pull out of the deal. You're just Iran. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network here. The British envoy, the British ambassador to the U.S., Kim Darroch, basically has sent some diplomatic cables to London. And apparently they got leaked to the Daily Mail, in which he described Trump as dysfunctional and said Trump is one twitch away from war with Iran. Well, as of right now, the White House is refusing to have anything more to do with Kim Darroch. So no doubt Great Britain will have to send a new envoy. Down in Gibraltar, the court there has extended the detention of this Iranian tanker for 14 days. And apparently this top court in the British territory of Gibraltar, has ruled that this Iranian supertanker illegally seized in the Strait of Gibraltar can be detained for another 2 weeks. And they're saying that this is on the basis there are reasonable grounds to consider that the detention of the Grace 1, which is the name of this tanker, is required for the purposes of compliance with the European Union regulation on sanctions on Syria. Now, reading between the lines, it doesn't sound like they actually have any evidence that the tanker was on the way to Syria. But they're just basically hanging on to this super tanker, which of course is costing Iran money. Spain is saying that the Iranian oil tanker was seized by Britain at the request of the United States of America. Okay, so meanwhile, over in Syria, there has been sabotage on pipelines off of Syria's coast, which a Syrian official said was conducted with the help of a foreign state. And it disrupted an Iranian crude oil delivery. So apparently explosive devices damaged underwater pipelines used to deliver crude oil from tankers to the Banias refinery in the western Syrian governorate of Tartus, causing an oil spill. The sabotage was qualitative and professional, and said that a foreign state coordinated with the perpetrators to send a message to Damascus. Gee, I wonder what foreign state they could be talking about there. Meanwhile, Netanyahu, who is coming up on snap elections, although there's a rumor out that he may cancel them now, he's trying to compare the Iranian uranium enrichment, which is at 3.67%. He's trying to equate that to the German army marching into the Rhineland in March of 1936. Now, that's a little bit out there. And I think when the propaganda gets that hysterical, people are going to start turning it off. But that's Netanyahu's latest thing. Iran is enriching uranium to 3.67%. It's the same thing as when the Nazis invaded the Rhineland. Israel has sent a warning to Iran that they will be hit hard in war, and they're vowing not to allow Tehran to obtain nuclear weapons. Well, again, Israel has been screaming that Iran is trying to obtain nuclear weapons for 30 years now. And there's been zero evidence Iran is interested in having nuclear weapons, although if I were Iran, I'd be seriously thinking about it right about now. So, speaking to Israel Army Radio, Israel's Foreign Minister Israel Katz pledged the Jewish state would not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons, even if it has to act alone on that. Which sounds like they're getting ready to just haul off and attack Iran and say, oh, trust us, there was a bomb factory there. But don't forget, when Israel destroyed Iraq's nuclear power station at Osirak, they had the same excuse. Oh, they're building bombs in the basement. We know there's a bomb factory under there, just like the one that, well, we might have under Dimona, but we might not, and you don't know, and we're not going to tell you. And then, of course, following the war on Iraq, international experts examined the ruins of the power station at Osirak, and all they found were the ruins of a power station. There was no evidence of a bomb factory. Now, over the weekend, speaking of Dimona, there was a story that was in the Jerusalem Post, and it basically involved a translation by MEMRI, the Middle East Media Research Institute, which is a known Israeli propaganda outfit, claiming that Iran is getting ready to attack the Dimona facility, which would, of course, unleash a major nuclear contamination across the region. And it's just more fear-mongering by Israel. I can't imagine that Iran would be dumb enough to do something like that, knowing it would trigger the war that Iran desperately wants to avoid. And, of course, given the prevailing winds, it means some of that radioactivity would, in fact, blow back on Iran. Now, Iran is not sitting idle. They are building up their defensive systems. And yesterday they unveiled a new tactical communication system named Safir 110. And it's an advanced communication system that meets all of the communication needs of commanders in the different strategic, operational, tactical, and combat levels. It is equipped with different communication layers, including high frequency, V and UHF, digital, safe, multi-band, multi-channel, DS and FH, and enjoys the ability for network roaming and remote controlled operation with needed bandwidth for voice, data, and image. It's apparently encrypted. They're claiming it is impossible to hack or break the encryption. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay. Well, the first shipment of Russian S-400 air defense missiles and control equipment is on its way to Turkey. In fact, it left Russia yesterday. It may be in Turkey right now. And apparently it was 2 cargo planes departed a Russian military base on Sunday. And apparently a technical team to oversee the system's installation is due to arrive in Turkey. Well, they arrived there today. And this comes amid Washington, D.C.'s continuing threat that Turkey will be subjected to sanctions when the Russian air defense missile systems ordered by Ankara are actually delivered to its NATO ally. Now, Turkey and the U.S. have been at loggerheads over Ankara's decision to purchase the S-400s, which Washington claims are not compatible with the defenses of the NATO military alliance and would also compromise American F-35 fighter jets. I think that's the giveaway right there, along, of course, with, the profit motive. The military-industrial complex wants other countries to buy American-made weapons, even if they're more expensive and not very good. So, apparently, Israel has finally come on out with their report on this botched Gaza operation earlier this year, where some IDF disguised as Palestinians tried to infiltrate Gaza. They were discovered by Hamas, and apparently there was a high-ranking Israeli officer who was killed, apparently by his own guys. At least they're saying there was friendly fire here. Now, one of the things that Israel loves to do to the Gaza fishermen is seize their boats. Israel is continuously and arbitrarily redefining the allocated fishing zone. It's supposed to be out to 12 miles, the international limit. But Israel will come on in and say, no, it's only 8 miles or it's 5 miles, sometimes as little as 3 miles. Now, anybody who's a professional fisherman understands that to get the better fish, the more commercial fish, you have to go a little bit further out than 3 miles. But Israel likes to seize these boats. So apparently after a 3-year legal battle, Israel has finally returned one of the fishing boats to Gaza fisherman Abdul Mudi al-Habil. And he's one of 21 Palestinian fishermen whose boats were recently returned following the court battle over breaching the allocated fishing zone. But the problem is the boats have been returned heavily damaged. They're returned without their motors. The motors have been removed. That's an $8,000 hit right there. All of the nets and tackle has been removed. That's another $3,000. And the boats are visibly damaged. Some have hull damage. Basically, Israel trashed them. The court said, give them back, and Israel said, okay. And they sent back basically junk. Now, Israel has created this secret department, which is right out of 1984, that makes critical documents disappear related to what is called the Nakba of 1948, which was the creation of the State of Israel. And an investigative report by Haaretz reveals that an Israeli Defense Ministry department called the Director of Security of the Defense Establishment is tasked with wiping out archives of files that don't support the official Israeli version of the creation of Israel. So, Winston Smith, white courtesy phone. Winston Smith, white courtesy phone here. All righty. Over at the United Nations, the Secretary General Antonio Guterres wrote a report last Friday saying that it's time to consider deploying armed forces to protect the Palestinians from Israel. Now, this was requested by the General Assembly, which unfortunately is not automatically binding. The question is, what are they going to be able to get it through the Security Council? And the answer is going to be most assuredly no. Okay, we're coming up here on another commercial break, and when we come on back, it's apparently a Jewish group wants to make Holocaust education mandatory in U.S. schools. So we'll talk about that after these few words.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When your doctor tells you you have bad cholesterol or blockages in the arteries, what do? When diet and exercise is not enough, we try medications and hope for the best. For the last 2 decades, I have been telling people about a natural method to help solve these problems and more. Extendovite can help maintain cardiovascular health and lower blood lipid levels in adults. The 7 herbs in Extendovite are known to work together synergistically to get the results we hope for. There are many testimonials on Extendovite's effect on circulatory-related ailments. Get Extendovite today to start your journey back to a healthier life. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or see us on amazon.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And before we go to the phones, I've actually gotten a couple of emails responding to Joe and his comments about women's soccer. And one of them said basically that pay should be commensurate with the revenue generated by women's soccer, and saying, I suspect it's less than revenue generated by men's soccer. I don't know. I tend to watch the women more than the men, but that's just me personally. And I don't watch soccer all that much anyway. And this is a little bit more detailed. Athletes' pay, whether women or men, is determined by how much money the respective professional league brings in. If the women's professional soccer league can generate the same amount or even more than the men's professional soccer league, then the women should end up making just as much or even more than the male athletes in the male's professional soccer league. Now, a woman working in an accounting firm doing the same work as a man in the accounting firm doing the same work, there should be equal pay for equal work output. So that's where we are. Okay, we have a caller on the line, Dan in Illinois. Aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hiya, Mike. I got two news reports, one from November 86, Washington Post, and one from April in 86, New York Times, about the one in New York Times, 17 are charged in a plot to sell weapons to Iran. This was Israel. Both of them are Israel.
Yes.
They were going to supply weapons to Iran because of the Iran-Iraq war to help them keep going. And they were going to do fighter planes, tanks, missiles, and other sophisticated armaments. So now, talk about hypocrisy, that capital letters.
Well, it's not hypocrisy. It's basically arm both sides and get them to fight each other. And Israel is a master at that, of getting other countries to fight each other to take them off the playing board.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm talking about as far as that is compared to today. You know, they're hypocrites.
Yes.
And if they think they can go, I don't know how many videos I've seen about in the Syrian war with Hezbollah fighting. They just went through how many years of in battle fighting, you know, bullets flying, shells blowing up. And these guys, they weren't tripping over their feet. They were going into these buildings very professionally. I'm no fan of them, but they knew how to handle themselves.
Yes.
It's not going to be the same as rock throwers and, you know, Molotov cocktails being thrown at them. So I know they had a hard time back in 2006 against them, and they had a hard time against them in 2009. So they better watch themselves. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, Israel's military is really good at, like, you know, shooting at Palestinian protesters, but they tend to come up short when going up against a military peer. And that's why Israel always wants the United States to send American kids to be the bullet catchers.
Yeah, and like I said, these guys looked very professional going into these buildings that they were taking, and is just the same as our guys going into these buildings. They look very professional.
Yeah.
So I'll let you go.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. And by the way, I forgot to mention this after the last commercial break. Republic Broadcasting does need your help. And the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation, or pledge to be a recurring subscriber is 800-724-2719, extension 1 during business hours, extension 3 at all other times. And of course, you can make a donation to whatreallyhappened.com using the donate button over at the webpage. And the network thanks you, and I thank you. And every little tiny bit really helps right now. So anyway, getting on back to this, the World Jewish Congress is pushing U.S. lawmakers to make Holocaust education mandatory in all U.S. schools. And their rationale for that is statistics from a 2018 poll revealing half of millennials can't name a single Nazi concentration camp. Well, that was all gone before they were even born. But by golly, we're going to make sure that these kids remember all this. To heck with mathematics and science and engineering and chemistry and stuff that can actually build a career with. But no, we're going to just drum it into their head. They will remember what we want them to remember, even if it didn't actually happen exactly the way that we said. Apparently, some school principal came out honestly saying, I can't actually confirm that any of this really happened. He's immediately been reassigned. Got to take another break for commercials. Got a caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, @hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
The reviews for Extendivite are amazing. Here are some from Amazon. September 2018. Extendivite works in keeping my blood pressure in the normal range. I've been using Extendivite for many years now. May 2018. Great product. I use regularly and I rarely get sick. March 2018. This product has relieved what appeared to be angina pain in my chest and shortness of breath after climbing stairs. I'm quite happy about it. February 2018. My husband, son, and I have been using this product for a few months now, and we have noticed an improvement in our joints and blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. To order, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822, or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Welcome to What Really Happened Radio. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. And now, set your eyes on the future and let's consider what really happened.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go right back to the phones here to Keith in Montana. Aloha, Keith. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Oh, good to hear you're back there, Mike. Hey, Mike, you know, one of my biggest pet peeves has always been this pluralism stuff. And I get so tired of this, what's going on and allegedly done in our names. But your other caller kind of sparked a little interest in mine that I have. You know, when you listen to all this historical stuff, whether it's from Noam Chomsky, who I've emailed with quite a bit over time, or with Stephen Ledman and others, when you see the amount of stuff that's being done in our names, plural, it should be shocking to Americans. And you can put down that flag for a minute, you know. But this is what we see in the Middle East, as well as down through Latin America. The United States, after destroying a country, leaves their stay-behind forces.
Yes.
And that's to make sure that the country does not rebuild and that they cannot put any efforts into any social reform and stuff, because they don't want social reform. They want a broke country. And now I just see where they said that ISIS is now showing up again over in Afghanistan. Well, of course, you know. It's like pull out of Iraq. Oh, it left a vacuum, you know. And this will be the same thing that they do over in Iran. You know, again, a nation that has never attacked this country, or a country that's never attacked this country. And, you know, when you listen to, like, the era of the Carter administration, when they were pulling back on what they were doing down there in Latin America, he well documents that this is why Israel is one of the greatest allies of America there, is because just like the Contras, that with the arms that Israel traded them, and the same thing with the Panama, all this stuff. You can, and what gets me is Israel boasts about this stuff.
Yes.
Their arms sales to Rwanda during the genocide there, to Guatemala during the genocide there, you know, and when you actually sit back and look at it, you can see why people chant death to America.
Yes.
Just as much as the Palestinians. You know, it may be an Israeli that's bombing them or something like that, but they're using U.S. planes and U.S. bombs.
Yeah. It's all made in America.
Yeah, and the side of it, though, is that it's because by federal law, the United States is a federal corporation, and that's why we see that Donald Trump, who accused Obama of leading from behind, Trump, as the CEO of the largest corporation in the world, he's out there brokering deals for the car manufacturers with China's trade and stuff, while John Bolton and that worthless Secretary Pompeo, they're out creating war. And, of course, this is to destabilize other areas. And the United States doesn't care, because if they're gone in those areas, their God will still be there, gold, oil, or drugs. That's all they care about.
Yep.
Just like when NATO moved down into Colombia. You know, do you think NATO's there for some humanitarian reason? No, it's to ensure the mafia's drug cartel that keeps their coca leaves and stuff all flowing north.
Yes.
55 million Americans hooked on drugs. Matter of fact, I've just been rebuilding my website here, my newer one, my dogsareloyalones.com. Anyway, I've got some good stories on there, but, you know, this all starts out with that Truman Doctrine and that other, I forget what it's called, anyway. But it's the policy. What U.S. policy is, foreign policy, and this is a stated fact, is to literally drive other countries into the hands of Russia, their eternal Satan. That is policy. And because, you know, it's one thing to say, well, you know, Syria's doing this and they're whooping us or something like that. You're using that plural as there. But if you attach Russia in there, the eternal Satan's back, you know.
Yes.
And it's the same thing with Iran, or the same thing with Turkey. Turkey's buying Russian You know, you see how this goes?
Yes.
It's to always link back to Russia. Their main enemy, because of the fact that Russia will not succumb to the U.S. pressure of all this stupid LGBTQ agenda crap and all that stuff. And then Americans don't realize that if you look it up demographically, today's Russia is 86% Orthodox Christians. And that's why I've always highlighted that 1915 Christmas truce.
Yes.
Where all those young Christian boys were fighting and killing either, from all sides. And then they had a truce, and they showered, they shaved, they played soccer, they read letters from home. And then, of course, all after this, you're back to war again. But it's Christians killing Christians,
Well, in the case of that Christmas truce, they wouldn't go back to war. Oh, it was a huge, big stink. The commanding officers on both sides were court-martialed for allowing that to happen, for the troops to mingle with each other. They absolutely refused. They said, we just had a Christmas party with these guys. I'm not going to shoot them.
Yeah, you can watch these vines on YouTube, or fails. It doesn't matter whether you're in Russia, Ukraine, or any of stuff like that. You watch these boys in America; they're playing with blacks. Over in Europe, they're playing with the French and stuff. Boys will be boys. They're out playing football and stuff like that,
Yep.
But they bring these wars up, and suddenly another guy's an enemy. And of course, you're supposed to sit there with your ruffled flag and make sure it hits the breeze like that, And it's like, with the amount of destruction like that, for those Christians out there that pray and stuff like that, every time you sit down for a dinner like that, you should be probably praying for that it's not your life that's been destroyed, but someone else's. I mean, that's how foreign policy is. Just so that you have food, because America has to feed 330 million Americans, and they'll by hook or crook,
Yes. That's going to be an issue later this year.
Yeah. And the same thing. When you preview again Donald Trump's post-election tweets about get out of Iraq, get out of Syria, blah blah blah, and of course he's all in it now. And it's the same thing. And I know Ryan's listening. Like I've got to see him tweet about Tulsi there, but Tulsi sounds good there too. But she's already met with the CFR. She's already accepted money from Lockheed Martin. It's the same thing. Once you get in and you get your briefings, like Hillary Clinton said, that she got her emails from the CFR, this is the standard policy or MO of the United States, is destroy other countries to keep yours going.
Yes.
And you're supposed to be a Christian nation. In the meantime, they're removing all your Christian heritage and stuff in this country, taking down statues, all that stuff, Anyway, I hope you feel better, sir.
Well, I'm doing a lot better here, but you're absolutely right about our foreign policy. Trump is not making America great by making America great. He's making America look great by making other countries look inferior, by turning them basically into bomb craters.
Well, yeah, it's like sports. While Americans are like Christians in a Roman gladiator theater like that, or having their tailgate parties, there is a very few elite group that's meeting in total secret and trying to learn how to control the lives and destiny of 8 billion people. It's a distraction.
Yes. Well, also,
anyway, that's my wisdom from Montana.
Well, we appreciate the wisdom from Montana, okay?
All right, my best to you over there, okay?
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. All right, Germany has turned down a request by the United States for ground troops for Syria. And Berlin is saying it has no plans to send ground troops to Syria. This, of course, is probably going to strain relations between Merkel and Trump a little bit more. The U.S. is trying to act like they're getting out of Syria, but as Keith was saying, they want to leave a stay-behind force, and they want to get Germany to do it. But apparently Germany's saying, no, it's we really have had enough of that. All right, over at the United Nations Security Council, they are calling for a ceasefire in Libya, and they're calling on Libya's warring parties to commit to a ceasefire after a deadly air raid on a detention center for migrants and refugees near the capital of Tripoli. And the Security Council stressed the need for all parties to urgently de-escalate the situation and to commit to a ceasefire. Gee, remember not all that long ago when Libya was still under Gaddafi and it was one unified nation? They had this great aqueduct system going. They had the gold dinar. They had this incredible high literacy rate. Gasoline was 25 cents a gallon. Education was free. What a wonderful country that was. And as Keith just pointed on out, look at it now following the U.S. war. It's just broken up. There's these warlords that are fighting each other for control. The United States has wrecked the place here. Now, speaking of wrecking another place, down in Venezuela, things are not going good for Bolton. And part of the problem is that Juan Guaido has become a tarnished brand. He has never captured the attention of the Venezuelan people. And more recently, he's been tarnished by this scandal involving members of his staff who have been helping themselves to the so-called humanitarian funds and just shoving them into their own pockets here. So Bolton is losing ground on Venezuela. He hasn't given up yet. He's still trying to figure out some way he can get it going. And the question is now out there, why has Trump not fired Bolton by this point? Meanwhile, Russia is pledging to strengthen Venezuela's military defense capabilities. This is coming from Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, and he said his country will continue to develop international cooperation with Venezuela, which includes strengthening military defense capabilities. Okay, let's grab another phone call from Frank in North Carolina. Aloha, Frank. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, hey, Mike, thanks for taking my call. That was very quick. Wow, just called in. Yeah, I just wanted to respond to something the caller from Montana, I believe, said. I agree with him. I fully understand for a long time why people in certain parts of the world would see America as the great Satan.
Yeah.
I absolutely understand that. But I don't know. I don't agree with some of what he said, though. Because, I mean, okay, yeah, Israel and America, but it's the Jews in America that control the foreign policy and the propaganda apparatus, the media.
Well, I don't want to get into issues of ethnicity here. We're talking about, the State Department and the administration, and certainly a lot of our current foreign policy is coming down from Donald Trump, who is not Jewish. So let's not exclude him from the process.
Well, I don't know if he's Jewish or not. I don't think he is, but you know what? In this crazy world, he might be.
Well,
a lot of his family members seem to be Jewish.
Speculation.
Okay. Well, I'm saying I have no voice. I have no voice in foreign policy. It doesn't matter. And by the way, Kelsey Gabbard, whatever, she's not going to do anything. She's not going to be anti-war if she gets into office. She's open borders, anti-Second Amendment. But once she gets in there, she's going to do what she's told.
Well,
I don't know what we're going to do.
Yeah, no, we're going to have to just sit back and wait for the whole thing to fall apart, which to me, we're clearly on that path, with all this transgender.
Hey, I understand
nonsense.
You were talking about Deutsche Bank?
Yes.
You're talking about Deutsche Bank?
Well,
yeah,
we will be talking about Deutsche Bank.
Okay, I'll be listening. I've had this guy telling me for years, a friend of mine, that to watch Deutsche Bank.
Yes.
He said he said that's the sign that it's starting to happen. It's getting ready to happen. Yeah. So, all right, thanks.
Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. Okay, so article out of the Information Clearinghouse, basically saying U.S. foreign policy is a war on disobedience, and that's absolutely true. The United States makes war on countries that refuse to do as they're told. Whether it was Iraq or Syria or Libya or any of these other, or Afghanistan. Do what we tell you. If not, the bombs will fall here. And there's this new essay, We're Not the Good Guys, Why is American Aggression Missing in Action? Tom Engelhardt basically criticizes America's corporate media for trying to describe the behavior of disobedient nations as aggressions. but they never use that label for the generally, hang on a second. I got a dropped call on my iWatch here. So he's basically out there saying, you never hear the American corporate media talk about the fact that the U.S. is the aggressor. And clearly it is. Anybody looking at a map and looking at the wars, it is the U.S. that is aggressing into Iraq, into Syria, into Libya, through proxies into Yemen. At least 7 official wars that we know of, and probably a lot of covert actions we don't know about. These other nations are not aggressing against us. Iran has not committed any aggressions against the United States of America. Iraq never committed any aggressions against the United States of America. Syria committed no aggressions against the United States of America. The United States just ginned up these wars for purely economic and political reasons. Now, over in the European Union, they spend a huge amount of money and a lot of time to set up an alarm system for Russian meddling. Oh, we're going to catch those Russians. They're meddling here. Well, it's been running for 6 months, and it hasn't sounded an alarm a single time. Talk about a waste of money. But it made for good propaganda. Ooh, Russia's meddling. Russia. Ooh, bad Russia. Bad Russia. They're still out there trying to push that, though, that Russia somehow influenced the 2016 elections. All right, speaking of Russia, they have had an accident on one of their top secret deep submersibles. It killed 14 seamen, and the Moscow, while not talking about the submarine itself, because apparently it's one of their most secret platforms, they have gone public to say, yes, it's nuclear powered, but the nuclear reactor was scrammed and is perfectly safe. So good that that happened. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back after these few words.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations. A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877 928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, 2, keep it today.
Some are maxed out all their credit cards. Some are working 2 jobs and living in cars. Minimum wage won't pay for a roof, won't pay for a drink. If you gotta have proof, just try it yourself, Mr. CEO. See how far $5.15 an hour will go. Take a part-time job at one of your stores. I bet you can't make it here anymore.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, a while back, there was a little bit of kerfuffle in the EU because of the impending Brexit. Great Britain was kicked off the Eurofighter jet project. So Great Britain basically came on out and said, well, we'll just make our own because after all, we make good things. We made the Spitfire in World War II and, the Jaguar and so forth. So they're coming up with their own fighter jet, and apparently Sweden is now partnering with them. And apparently they've come up with a design for a fighter jet that's even spiffier than the Eurofighter project. And apparently it will be equipped with lasers and be able to control swarms of armed drones to attack multiple targets simultaneously. Boy, that's right out of Star Wars, actually. I have to be very honest. I don't like war and I don't like killing, but sometimes the toys they come up with are really rather amazing. All right, so let's talk about the economy. And as that caller mentioned earlier, Deutsche Bank is in trouble. In fact, Deutsche Bank, as we have known it, has basically ceased to exist. And I mean, how far they've fallen in just 10 years. 10 years ago, they dominated equity and fixed income and sales trading and investment banking across the globe. Not anymore. And yesterday, Deutsche Bank announced it's exiting its equity sales and trading operation, resizing its once legendary fixed income and rates operation, and reducing risk-weighted assets currently allocated to these businesses by 40%, slashing as many as 20,000 jobs, including many top officials. They're creating a 74 billion euro bad bank as part of a reorganization that will cost up to 7.4 billion euros by the end of 2022 and will result in another massive second quarter loss of 2.8 billion euros. So, yeah, they're in real trouble. And I remember some years ago, I had a fan of the show who worked for Deutsche Bank in the U.S., and I'm not going to name any names, but he kept dropping hints that something was not right with Deutsche Bank. And then unfortunately he passed away, supposedly from suicide. So the Deutsche Bank staff, they're all bracing themselves because they're looking at severe job cuts. This is probably going to be the biggest upset in banking since Lehman Brothers. And a lot of people have been saying, yeah, if Deutsche Bank goes, it means the entire system is coming on down. And this is where that D word comes on in. the D word, derivatives. Okay, we're going to take a break for station identification. Back with hour number 3 after these few words.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network because you can handle the truth. What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. And basically, I'm just now getting this story that's coming in from Bloomberg. And apparently, Epstein's attorneys are arguing that Epstein has immunity under his 2008 plea deal, even though the new case includes additional victims who weren't covered by the original non-prosecution deal, and of course the new materials found in the raid in the Manhattan mansion. So Epstein apparently has pled not guilty, and they're saying the case is essentially a do-over on ancient stuff. So this is kind of an interesting development, because it went from let's do a deal and I'll name names to his saying, no, this was covered under the previous plea deal. So we'll see what the judge is going to say about that. But see, the whole point is that plea deal is the scandal. That is the scandal. How did that come about after all the harm that this guy had done to those girls, the underage girls, the sex, the trafficking? He should have gone away to jail for life, and instead he got a little over a year in a county lockup. Something happened there. And again, I'm sure that a lot of people in a lot of very powerful positions want this all to go away. This may be the beginning of it. All righty. All right, getting on back here to the economic news here. A lot of people have been talking about China's rare earth monopoly, because China is home to 85% of the world's rare earth elements. And it isn't just that they have the production capacity. They have spent decades and a lot of money developing efficient technologies for not only extracting them, but processing these 17 metals as well. In other words, China not only has the resources, they have the know-how to extract them and process them and purify them. So a lot of people are out there concerned that China could simply say, we're going to embargo. And there is a precedent. Back in 2011, there was this territorial dispute between China and Japan. Beijing imposed a rare earths export embargo on Japan. And of course, prices soared. Everybody started stockpiling in case things got tougher until the World Trade Organization intervened and China lifted the embargo. And boy, there's a lot of stuff coming on in here. So I'm sure right now that other countries that have rare earth elements are trying to crank up the mines. But again, it isn't just the mines, it's being able to process and refine it. Okay. Right now, apparently, there is a trade feud between Japan and South Korea that is upsetting the global chip supply. So it's all coming apart there as well. We're going to have trouble getting our electronics here. Now, here is the story. We talked about this a bit before. Out in Los Angeles and San Francisco, somebody tried the idea of bringing back the idea of a dormitory, a college dormitory, not for college students, but for young working professionals. Now, we know that rents are totally out of control in some of those coastal cities. They're out of control here. That's why we're having to move to Indiana. And right now, renters in Los Angeles are paying $1,200 a month for these little sleeping pods in these communal homes. And for the $1,200, they get the sleeping pod, they get a desk, a locker, and a personal TV. Everything else is shared. I don't know about that. Trying to get us all used to barracks living. That's really what it is. Get used to living in a barracks. Apparently, floods have destroyed another 175,000 acres of farmland in Tennessee. The cotton and the soybean crops are ruined. It's bad out there. Milk sales plummeted by 1.1 billion in 2018, probably because there was a lot of concern over whether milk was really healthy for adults or not. And over in China, they're still dealing with that African swine fever, and it's just devastating their hog herds and the world's largest pork consumer and producer. And they're saying it could be 10 years before they're really recovered from this. And this virus, which kills most infected pigs within 10 days, has already spread to most Chinese provinces. So far, officials report a 24% decline for the nation's herds, and they're saying that number may be conservative. So apparently Robobank is saying that China's losses may already be as high as 70%. And they're saying it'll take 10 years to achieve a structural recovery. Okay, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Oh, Boeing, 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 what have you done? Apparently there's been a new development with the 737 MAX, this one involving the autopilot. Now, for those of you who are out there who are pilots or who understand how airplanes operate, when the autopilot is on, it's flying the airplane, usually under control of the flight director, and the autopilot just keeps the airplane at a certain altitude, a certain direction, a certain airspeed, and a certain altitude. But if something happens, the autopilot is supposed to disengage, such as the pilot grabbing hold of the control yoke or the control stick and moving it. The autopilot is supposed to disengage. But apparently a bug has been discovered in which under certain circumstances the autopilot will not disengage and will actually fight the pilot for control of the aircraft. So whoever was in charge of that 737 MAX program, they should have already been fired. They cut too many corners. They were offshoring some of this stuff. to places that paid like $9 an hour, just trying to maximize their profitability, and it's going to cost them because apparently the Saudi budget airline Flyadeal has lost patience with Boeing, and they're canceling a $5.9 billion order for 30 of the Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. Instead, they're going for a fleet of Airbus A320 jets with options for a further 20 of the jets. Boeing is taking a major hit on all of this. Nobody even wants to fly any Boeing products between the problems with the 737 MAX, the problems they've had with the Dreamliner. People just don't want to be on there. And as a matter of fact, looking at our flights to Indiana in September, it's Airbus all the way, which is going to make us a little bit more relaxed here. So Flyadeal has pulled the plug, and they're going to go with Airbus. And it is a real shame because Boeing used to be a really good name. And I don't know about their current crop of military aircraft, which is where they make a great deal of their money. But looking at all the problems they've had with the 777, the 787, and now the 737 MAX, I think public confidence is shaken, and justifiably so. I wouldn't want to fly in a Boeing product right now. Okay, gentleman by the name of Riza Aziz, he was producer of the movie The Wolf of Wall Street. And he has now been arrested in Malaysia on money laundering charges. Apparently, it's in connection with the looting of this massive investment fund set up by his stepfather and former Prime Minister of Malaysia, Najib Razak. Well, no wonder that movie seemed so realistic in its corruption. All right, the Immigration and Custom Enforcement raids are set to begin. They're starting, I guess, as of right now. And ICE is promising to basically round up 1 million illegal immigrants who have failed to show up for their court dates and just throw them back across that border. And I hope they can do it. But you've got all these liberals who are out there who want to protect the illegal immigrants. Oh, these poor people, they have every right to be here. And to vote Democrat, of course, which is really what it's all about. In fact, speaking of voting Democrat, Beto and Cory are campaigning in Mexico. Now, if that doesn't tell you they are relying on the illegal immigrant vote in this country, nothing will. They should be kicked off the ballot for that. Oh, and by the way, Swalwell just dropped out. So they're still going back and forth over this issue of the citizenship question on the census. And the fact of the matter is that for most of the history of the census, there has been a citizenship question because the constitutional purpose of the census is to draw the borders of the representatives' districts. And obviously, only legal voters should be counted for that. Now, Barack Obama deleted that question from the U.S. Census. In fact, he was the first president to exclude that question in the U.S. Census. But that censorship, that citizenship question is the norm for the survey. So it isn't the fact that Trump wants the question on there that's controversial. It's the fact that Obama deleted it, took it off there. Up in New York State, this will curl your hair. New York State is now handing out driver's licenses to illegal immigrants that look exactly like the driver's licenses given to legal U.S. citizens. There's no way, looking at this license, that you can tell that this person is an illegal immigrant and should not be allowed to vote. It's just insane. All righty. Let's take another phone call here. Mark in Chicago. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Mike. This is Mark, the pontoon guy from Chicago. I sent you a couple computers back then.
Oh, I still have them.
Most excellent. I'm looking forward to you pretty much being my next door neighbor, even though we'll be like 300 miles apart compared to now. You're like my next door neighbor. I'm looking forward to it. If you need any more hardware, I'm your man too. I got a whole bunch of good stuff.
Well, thank you. I may actually, would you shoot me an email with your contact info in it, and I need to put it in the move file?
That sounds good to me.
All right, thank you. So what's on your mind?
Just wanted to, nothing. Just every day I take the train downtown Chicago, and the people are just like a bunch of brainwashed drones. Occasionally here and there, there's someone who's a little woke, but for the most part, it's kind of sad, really. And every day I take the train in, take the train home. I hear everyone just talking points, like brainwashed by the news, and I just kind of smile at him with my Rivero's Rangers hat on, and it's crazy. I can't believe the world's coming to this. I can't believe the Democratic parties. Who can give away the country faster? And it seems like the Republicans are a bunch of cowards with their tails between their legs, with the exception of a few.
Yep.
I was always a big Ron Paul guy, and so I'd never really played too much into the game. Kind of like a leave me alone, let me pay my taxes and go about my life kind of person. But more and more they're infracting. They're passing all these taxes up here, and the answer is just to tax more,
yes.
Give ourselves raises, tax more.
That's going to be an epidemic all across the country because, all of these counties and states, they're all broke, they're in debt, and their solution to everything is we're going to tax the people more. That's why you have people out in Los Angeles and San Francisco with full-time jobs who are paying $1,200 to sleep in a pod at night.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I make a modest $50 a year doing IT work, and I can barely make ends meet. If I were to go to Indiana or Louisville, I could make a little bit less and actually have a little more.
Yes,
it's kind of odd how that works. But yeah, that's about all, man. I enjoy the show and keep up the good work. I listen to you all day. I was wondering where you were these last couple of days. What happened to Mike? You move already?
Well, that's why you've got to read
a
the top announcement at the website here because, as I explained,
right.
I needed a little bit of a rest between the website and the radio show and trying to get ready for this move, and just being an old guy. I was just running on the fumes here, and I just John Stadmiller just said take a few days off, get rested up, and get back to being your normal obnoxious self.
Do you guys have an ETA of when you expect to go, or just whenever you can?
Oh no, we have a timeline set up. We've got 2 more sales to go through. We know when the movers are going to be here for what little bit we're taking with us to Indiana. We know when the car gets picked up to get shipped, and we already have our airline reservations.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to it, man. Maybe I'll meet you in person, have a beer with you or something when you're in my neck of the woods.
Well, certainly after we get settled in, one of the things I want to do is get on out and start meeting some people face to face, which I have not been able to do much here in Hawaii.
Yeah, are you going to be setting up a new studio, or I know obviously the guys that work your desk aren't going to be going with you, I'm assuming.
No, I'm taking this whole setup with me. I'm setting up a laptop that will allow me to do the RBN radio show while the main setup is boxed up and put in the moving thing.
Cool. Awesome sauce. So I look forward to it, man. And like I said, I'll get off the line with our callers calling in and have a good show, man.
Thanks an awful lot, Mark. And again, send me your contact info. And we're going to switch over to Art in Philadelphia. Aloha, Art. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, I just wanted to comment on some information on Boeing. Being involved with high-tech procurement and dealing with Boeing, I never got any business from them. Give you some insight. First of all, they sent us to a bidders conference down in Southern California, Huntington Beach area. And while we were there, they replaced, it wasn't a single American engineer working there. And their Hindu American Indian asked us to find contracts for them. It says, get us a $20 million contract, and we want $10 million of it. That was nice of them. The other thing is the two vendors they do business with for professional services are Manpower and Volt. I've encountered Volt. I know they were involved with an investigation with DCAS. That used to be RCA, now it's L3 in Camden, New Jersey. They put DCAS put the vice president in jail for fraud, and they said to me, "You better keep away from Volt. They were run by the Gambinos." There's a similar story with Manpower. So this problem you're seeing with Boeing has been going on for over 2 decades. Also, I know there was a recruiter, Norm Boudreau Associates, who worked for EDP Temps, who bragged about he would go to Boeing in the Philadelphia area and talk about how he would basically influence, to say it politely, the procurement activity so they would get the business. In other words, the skids were greased.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's really funny because I've mentioned this before. Michael Crichton was so prescient on so much of this stuff, and he wrote a book called Airframe, which will never, ever be made into a movie, I can guarantee that. And he talked about how a lot of these problems of deregulation and offsetting tech and offshoring in general was going to lead to some major problems with the airlines. And he wrote this book at a period in his life where he'd made his money. And he was over there living on Kauai. He was perfectly happy. And he started writing books that he wanted to sort of shout out some warnings. And he wrote one called State of Fear, which was about the global warming hoax. He wrote the one about Airframe. Anyway, listen, Art, got to let you go. Got to take a break for commercials. Got another caller waiting on the line, and we'll be right back.
Don't regret growing old. It's a privilege denied to many. Heart disease is taking our youth from us. Young people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond are dying needlessly. One of the hardest messages I've ever had to deliver is to convince people that something natural like Extendivite should be taken as a preventative measure. I'm sure you heard an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Extendivite is that ounce. Take Extendivite for 1 year and see what your doctor has to say and how much better you feel. Herbs take time to address the problem. It took years of life to have a problem. Give Extendivite 1 year to fix the problem. Don't wait until it's too late. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or visit us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting Truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no day.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And interestingly enough, apparently over at Wikipedia, the fact that Bill Clinton flew on the Lolita Express, that's Epstein's private airplane, down to the Caribbean 26 times, was removed. They're already scrubbing the history. It's right out of 1984. You know, you don't need to know that Bill Clinton was going down there to diddle the little girls. But apparently they got called on it and they've restored the article entry. But that's exactly what social media has become right now. Anyway, let's go to the phones here. Eric in Tennessee, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Michael, yeehaw from Tennessee. I just want to let you know I have plenty of women's clothing for winter wear for Claire. And I'll deliver up to you in Indiana when you get there. If you'll just contact me, you have my email address and all that.
Well, I really appreciate that, and you know, we're having a lot of people come forward, you know, with offers of furniture and things like that, which we're going to need. I mean, we're going to arrive there in Indiana basically with a few of our possessions and not a whole heck of a lot else. In fact, I'm very, very worried that after having worked so long to get our credit cards paid down, that we're going to wind up, you know, plunged back in credit card debt again. But we've made the decision. We've already given our notice to our current landlady. We've already contracted with the various people and everything. So it's on. It's definitely on.
Well, I think you need not worry. You have plenty of supporters out here that are going to help you out. And I have a bunch of furniture here. You already saw my house. The other thing I wanted to bring up was Gaddafi.
Yes.
He did so much for his people, and he ran a tribal state or tribal country, and he united the tribes in a way that was a democratic society where he let the tribal leaders basically vote on what was going on. And I think he did a lot of good for that country, and it was so sad to see him taken out. I mean, it's just that's just my gut feeling at the moment.
Yeah, well, no, Gaddafi was doing a really good job. He was liked by his people. I mean, so was Saddam. I remember before this whole Iraq war began, there was this video of Saddam Hussein coming out of a government building following some kind of a meeting, and there was no, you know, heavy guard around him. There were people around in the street, and they were all waving at him. There were open windows all around, which, you know, anybody with a rifle could have. There were people standing there with machine guns. Most people don't understand. In Saddam Hussein's Iraq, you could buy and own a machine gun. So.
Right.
You know, we get.
Libya, the same thing, probably.
Say again?
Yeah, so Libya, the same thing. He did so much good for his people.
Yes.
And, he nationalized the resources of the country to take care of all his people.
Well, so did Hugo Chavez, and that's why the bankers hated him so much, because in the bankers' view, the only purpose for us ordinary human beings is to make them richer than they already are.
Well, that's where the Bitcoin comes in, because it surpasses the bankers. You don't have to worry about the bankers anymore.
Well, one way or the other, the bankers are going to grab control of the cryptocurrencies. They never let anything that could threaten their profitability, you know, last for very long. Look at what they did to the U.S. note following Kennedy's assassination.
Well, yeah, but they can't control Bitcoin. That's the beauty of it. Is it's an individual peer-to-peer transaction, and nobody is in the middle of it. I think you understand that from the little bit you played with it.
Yeah, I do understand that, and I understand also there's been a lot of manipulation of it. Again, if push comes to shove, the bankers will simply go to their pet politicians and declare cryptocurrencies to be illegal.
Well, they could do that, but still, the people, if they want to use them, they're going to use them. What are the bankers going to do? Bomb everyone on the country or on the planet? I guess they can, but that's the way life is.
Yep.
So,
okay.
anyway, I'll let you go, but look me up when you get to Indiana, and I'll bring a bunch of stuff down to you and help you get resettled and going again.
All right. Well, I really appreciate it. And of course, we're not going to really know exactly what we need until we find the place that we're going to be renting. Anyway, thank you very much here. And we're going to start with Ken in New York. And Ken, I'm going to have to take you through the commercial break. In fact, we're coming up on the commercial break right now. So Ken, just cool your heels for a little bit. And again, thanks to everybody who's out there who's paying attention to our move. It is kind of rough to move that far around the planet when you are as old as we are. All right, so we'll be back after these few words with Ken in New York.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
How healthy are your arteries? Deteriorating circulation has a number of early warning signs. High cholesterol, high blood pressure, fingers and or toes often go cold, arms and or legs often go to sleep, sharp diagonal crease in the earlobe, short walks cause cramping or pains in legs. Memory is not as good as it used to be, ankles swell late in the day, chest pain after physical exercise or emotional stress. If you experience even one of these symptoms, your circulatory system is crying out for attention. Extendivite is a natural solution to help improve your overall health. Extendivite is not your average heart tonic. To order, call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com or find us on Amazon.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms or you have a concealed weapon permit, and win a level of trading that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range. Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356 or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN @hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're getting reports from New York that Deutsche Bank employees are walking out of the building with thick white envelopes, which I presume is their severance pay or whatever deal that they're dealing with there. All right, let's go back to the phones here and let's go to Ken in New York. Aloha, Ken. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, you sound like you're fit. I'm glad you're doing well. I didn't catch the first part of the show, but I have heard that, and I'm not spreading rumors, I'm pretty sure I heard it on this network. Wasn't Alan Dershowitz one of the visitors to Fantasy Island?
That's a good name for it. I've heard that as well. And
Okay.
I imagine there's a lot of people right now who are hoping that there's going to be some kind of a deal made. The last report I got is the judge is actually going to hold a bail hearing for Epstein on the 15th. Now, I mean, if they grant this guy bail, he's out of here. You know, he'll find some way to get out of the country, and he'll simply vanish, and that'll be the end of it. He'll go down to the Cayman Islands and play canasta with Ken Lay.
Yeah, we oh, you mean the spirit of Ken Lay?
No, Ken Lay.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean the spirit of, right? He's
Yep.
supposed to be gone or not amongst us anymore, but you never know. All right, that's all I had to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we're going to switch over to Peter in Los Angeles. Aloha, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, do you know when you're going to actually fly out from the island? Are you going to go direct to Indiana, or are you going to have a layover in L.A.?
We're going to have a layover in, I think it's Denver. I'd have to look at the situation, but it's just long enough to change airplanes.
Well, I was just going to offer you to spend the night or whatever. We'll take you out on the town.
Well, let's see here. No, given Claire's back injury, we're going to get her basically juiced up on her pain meds and just try and get there as quickly as we can. And, actually, the stopover is in Los Angeles, but we're only going to be there for about, an hour and a half, which is not enough time to leave the airport.
Yeah, well, even like 2.5 hours, I could get you to Marina Del Rey for a brunch or something. But if it changes, let me know. I mean, I hopefully you have all my stuff there. But I'd love to, entertain you guys.
It's interesting. There was a story that came across my desk yesterday, and I didn't post it. But, back when everybody started getting really paranoid about hijackings and terrorists and everything, they closed off the airport concourses to non-passengers. So you couldn't go on in and wait for arrivals right there at the gate. And I guess this really negatively impacted all the little food shops and gift shops and everything there. And so a lot of airports are now starting to reverse that policy to where you can walk on into that concourse area and wait at the gate. So, again, we're going to have about an hour and a half and between when we arrive And of course, giving taxiing times and getting everything, maybe an hour at max, but that would be really kind of pushing it.
Well, if anything changes, Mike, let me know, and my family would be happy, and I would be overjoyed to be able to take you guys out to eat or host you for the evening or whatever.
Well, at the very most, it would be we meet at the airport and we shake hands, and that would be basically about all we could do. Because again, after that, 5-hour flight from Honolulu, Claire may be having issues of getting around. In fact, I'm going to try and arrange for one of those little electric, carts to take us from one gate to the other gate.
Mike, can I tell you that just on more of a topical thing for the show, there's been a couple stories that I'd like to kind of synthesize here, if I could.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's just become. There's an article that is out that Israel has its a ministry office that's meant to cleanse and purge anything anti-Nakba from the history books.
Yeah.
That's going on. We also know that you can't say anything about Israel negatively on social media, or very hard to anyways. And that's been done. We also know that even though that newspapers, they say, are the first draft of history, right? And in the United States anyways, the Middle East has never been covered fairly, as you've gone over and over again, with the corporate and mainstream media, and that's for the last 80 years. There was an article that Gilad Atzmon had where he was talking about how mention of the Rothschilds has been purged from history books and from articles. And then we have the fact that now there's social media trolls that will jump on anybody that does it. And you also mentioned that they now want to make the Holocaust studies mandatory in all schools in the United States.
Yes.
So when you put that all together, and then you think back and people say, oh, how could the Holocaust be not as they said it was? And I would counter that by saying you've got to be open to that, because nothing that we know has been as they said it was.
Yes.
Everything has been jiggered and redone and purged and blacked out and everything else, shouted down, what have you, edited. And so it's amazing the effort that they have. But the Gilad Atzmon's other article that he had was what kind of people and how they showed up to some in the United States, a bunch of Jewish peace activists showed up, in support of somebody else, and about how far they go for the rights. This was LBQT or whatever that was. But how far they go in going for other people's rights and championing them, but they'll never talk about Palestinians.
Nope.
They'll never talk about Gaza. They're talking about all this stuff with the concentration camps, but they never talk about that. And Gilad Atzmon in his article says, what about them makes them so ready to criticize everybody else and support and never talk about their own stuff? So that was my point. But
no, that was a valid point. We did cover most of those stories earlier in the show today. But yeah, Israel is trying to put out an image of being a democracy, of being a humanitarian nation. And you're right. They're over there protesting about the treatment of the illegal immigrants at the border. But you're absolutely right. They won't look at their own situation. Now, apparently there was an exception to that because there's a very popular comedian in Israel, and I'm blanking on his name, but apparently on one of his most recent TV shows, he came on out and he said, "Wake up and smell the apartheid," which tells me that his TV show probably is not going to last much longer.
Yeah, really. And we also know that they're editing textbooks, like in Virginia.
Yes.
They're actually editing U.S. textbooks. So But anyways, listen, I just wanted to get that in. But Mike, I can be of any help to you if there's any way to get a chance to take you out to dinner or lunch or brunch or spend the night or whatever. I would love to be able to do so. So please
Well,
let me-
Peter, our schedule is set, and as I said, at the very least, it would be meeting at the gate for a handshake. But shoot me an email, and I'll send you what our schedule is.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. And yeah, one of the things I am looking forward to, getting back to the mainland, is all these wonderful people who have been calling into the show or sending us emails and everything, and they feel so remote and so far away on the other side of that big chunk of the Pacific Ocean. And I am looking forward to being able to actually meet some people face to face. And again, for all those who were offering furniture and clothing and everything else, just upfront thanks in advance. And again, we're not going to know exactly what we're going to need until we get settled in. We know we're getting some furniture, but not everything that we might need. It's going to be just chaos, utter chaos here. But hopefully by the middle of September, end of September, we'll be settled in and things will be kind of calming down. Alrighty, so getting on back to the news here, and we had a caller who called about this earlier on, where the United States won the Women's World Cup, and apparently the way the women's team behaved did not produce, shall we say, a positive image for the United States to the rest of the world, who called them smug and arrogant and proclaiming their own greatness. And of course, comments made by the LGBTQ contingent, about, equal pay and, the science is the science. And I wasn't really paying attention, but apparently it didn't come across very well. And the women's soccer team basically came back and said, well, this is sexism, because when the men's soccer teams win, you see them celebrating all around the world. Why is it wrong for the women to do exactly the same thing? Well, I think the difference is that the men's soccer team go on out and celebrate a soccer victory, whereas in this case, clearly the victory was being politicized to push the progressive liberal agenda. And apparently over in France, Fox News was doing a segment at a bar, and just about the time that Team USA won the Women's World Cup final, soccer fans broke out into a chant of blank Trump, and you can imagine what goes in there, and flipping the bird at the camera during this live Fox News broadcasts from this bar in France, which is kind of interesting because I thought the French had a little bit more decorum, or maybe these were actually migrants from other countries. I'm not really sure about that. All right, along with all of these bills all across the country about banning criticism of Israel and banning criticism of vaccines and banning criticisms of GMO, apparently there is another trend by government which can't actually fix the real problems with the country, so they're going to do something else to make it look like they're engaged. And apparently there is a new fad, if you will, to ban porn. And apparently it's already swept across the Bible Belt states, and now it's up in Ohio. Backed by the Citizens for Community Values, Republican Jenna Powell is leading the charge to brand pornography as a public health crisis, and they're introducing a resolution in the Ohio House. And she ties the use of pornography with sex trafficking and sexual abuse. Well, actually, there was a study done some years ago that said the availability of porn provided an outlet for certain urges and would actually reduce the occurrence of actual crimes. Instead of actually going on out and trying to assault somebody, the perpetrators would just stay at home and look at the magazines or the internet and do what they're going to do here. But if you really want to deal with the porn, you might want to look at the Department of Defense, because apparently they have a major problem over there. There's an untold number of Department of Defense employees and contractors have subscriptions not just to porn sites, but to child porn sites. And apparently the problem is so pervasive, the Department of Defense is looking at putting in filtering technology. Now, come on, guys, if you're really depraved and sick enough to want to look at that stuff, do it at home on your own computer on your own time, not on taxpayer-funded computers, taxpayer-funded broadband, taxpayer-funded whatever. I just don't get that here. Over in Chicago, thank goodness they've got some of the nation's strictest gun control. Apparently 66 people were shot and 5 were killed over the 4th of July weekend. So there we are here. All right, let's talk about vaccine safety. That is still an issue. And again, we're seeing social media, corporate social media, putting in filters to scrub this kind of information. It's not just conservative political views anymore. It's anything that threatens any corporation's profits anywhere. So there was this physician, Dr. Andrew Zimmerman, who was cited as the government's own pro-vaccine medical expert. And he was basically quoted and cited and saying, you know, this is one of our doctors, and he says there is no link between vaccines and autism. He has now gone public saying that his opinions were misrepresented in vaccine court, and that there is in fact a government cover-up of a vaccine autism link. Now, I can understand why the vaccine corporations are trying to cover this all up, because if it turns out that for all these decades these companies have been selling a product that was causing that harm, and I think the autism rate is now up to 1 out of every 28 children, the lawsuits would just shut them down. So they don't care about the kids. They don't care about the patients. They just care about making money, and having made the money, they want to protect the money. And I would not be surprised at some point if the vaccine industry goes to the government and says, you have to protect us. Now, vaccine makers are already indemnified against harm caused by their product, but that indemnification does not cover intentional negligence and marketing a product they knew was dangerous. That's where Monsanto got into problems. It was proven they knew there was a link between glyphosate and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. We got to take a break for commercials. Back with the last segment of our program after these few words.
It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. We here at RBN are working with Front Sight Firearms Training Institute to bring our audience the best in combat, tactical, and defensive firearms training. Whether you're a private citizen who is new to firearms, or you have a concealed weapon permit and want a level of training that surpasses what you've received from your local gun range, Front Sight provides priceless education and skills taught by seasoned law enforcement, military, and private citizen instructors to levels that far exceed law enforcement and military standard. With nearly 1 million responsible citizens trained from every town, city, and state from across the United States, Front Sight has bolstered the Patriot movement to a whole new level. Contact Dan Sutterfield by phone at 573-762-2356 or 573-465-2356, or shoot him an email at domedan, DOMEDAN, at hotmail.com. This is a limited time opportunity. Don't miss it.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And we're talking about the almost palpable panic in the vaccine industry right now. Try to keep a lid on the fact that they have for decades been selling products which are not that effective. In fact, they've already admitted this year's flu shot is ineffective against this year's flu. But get the shot anyway, just in case. Apparently up in Nova Scotia, a chiropractor has been ordered to pay a $100,000 fine for professional misconduct for talking about vaccines on social media. He wasn't in his office. He wasn't in his professional capacity. He was just being guy on social media. And they tracked him down and said, that's professional misconduct to even dare to criticize the safety and efficacy of vaccines. $100,000. Now, here's a little interesting story. As you know, Facebook now has fact checkers. And one of their fact checkers focuses on vaccine safety and came on out basically taking down a high wire video that basically said that ingredients used in vaccines include aluminum and mercury, which are known neurotoxins, and vaccines can cause encephalopathy, which is a term encompassing any type of brain damage disorder or disease. That includes encephalitis. So the Facebook fact checker basically said, absolutely not. This is completely fake news, forgetting the fact that both the CDC and Merck admit that the MMR vaccine can possibly cause encephalitis and encephalopathy. It's even on the package insert. But Facebook wants to make sure that you don't even don't read that package insert. We'll tell you what's safe. Okay. Now, over in New Mexico, they are continuing to sell CBD, legally under a state law, despite the ongoing FDA prohibition. So last week they passed a law creating a licensing and regulatory structure for hemp production and ensuring the sale of CBD can continue in the state, and it went into effect. This opens up markets in New Mexico and takes a crucial step given the FDA's continued regulation and prohibition of CBD. Because if you have a medical problem, you go to the medical industrial complex, and after you have to wait about 3 months, which is how long Claire had to wait, they'll see you and give you a pill and a huge bill to go with it. And finally, here's something I've been talking about for quite some time. With all this rush into facial recognition technology, according to this story coming on out from stationgossip.com, studies are showing that over 80% of the people flagged by facial recognition technology are actually innocent of any wrongdoing. Okay, there's the music time for me to get on out of here. I got to do Jim Goddard up there in Vancouver. Please stay tuned for John Stedmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please take what you learn here, share it with other people. Please donate to Republic Broadcasting. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. And we'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.